There are times when you're going to need therapy. You're going to need someone to enlighten you. But the point is, number one, it can be done. And number two, it should be done. You shouldn't settle for damaged goods.
We're in the month of December, and many people look forward to holidays. This is called a holiday season. Some of them holidays that are more biblical, some perhaps less biblical. I want to focus in on a holiday which I believe has a message for everyone. Although Jews exclusively are the ones who are obligated to observe it, to perform the mitzvah, the commandment of the holiday, but I believe that it has a message for everyone. So I'll ask you about Chanukah. What is the general message of Chanukah that applies to everyone and anyone?
Well, we call it the Festival of Light, which is basically celebrating the victory of light over darkness. That's a pretty big theme, very broad. Light over darkness. So let's take a closer look at the story and we'll be able to define it better. Jews are settled into the Holy Land. They have a holy temple. In the temple, there is the Holy of Holies. Everything's perfect. Everything is holy. Everything is innocent. And then some people came and contaminated even the holiest of the holy. The Jews fought back. To make a long story short, the Jews fought back, reclaimed the temple, rededicated the temple, and they had to light the menorah, the godly light that spreads throughout the world. But the oil was contaminated. So they had the option. They could use that oil. It was permissible. But they didn't want to. They went looking until they found one cruse of oil that was still sealed. And if it's sealed, then it didn't become contaminated. Problem was that it was only enough for one night. And a miracle happened, and it lasted for 8 days until they were able to produce pure oil again. But if you take that on a more profound level, what happened was the innocence that we were enjoying at that stage in history was violated. And the question was, what do you do once you're violated? When your innocence is taken away from abuse, from violation, well, you have two options. You can accept your fate and say, I am violated, I am damaged, I am contaminated, I'm no longer innocent. I will never again be what I was. That's darkness. But you can live with it. It's an option. You make peace with the fact that you're not perfect anymore, you're not innocent anymore, and you go from there, you try your best. You're a lemon, but you can make some lemonade. The other option is, I cannot accept a loss of innocence. I can't compromise the light in my life. The light has to be pure, otherwise it's not really light. So you look, you search, you go deeper. And the good news is, if you look and if you search, you are guaranteed to find the uncontaminated, the untouched, the uncompromised innocence that cannot be compromised, can't be contaminated. And with that, you light your menorah, you light up your life. Will it last for 8 days? It'll last for as long as you need for the rest of your life. Because innocence is light, and light always wins over darkness. So people who feel like they've been damaged and their innocence was robbed, they need to know that darkness or contamination can only affect you on the surface, on the most superficial level. Just under the surface, you cannot be less innocent than the way you were born, because that's your nature, and you can't change nature. So you just have to go a little deeper and find where you were never compromised, you were never violated, you were never contaminated, and use that innocence to now shine. Until now, it was under, under the surface. Bring it to the surface and live your life in absolute innocence.
So, Rabbi, can I ask you 2 questions on that? Not to counter it, but to better understand it. Number one, as you're saying, is, digging deeper and finding that innocence. And you're saying that it's something that everybody can do potentially, right? But in fact, in the actual story of Chanukah, it wasn't your ordinary person that stood up against, the tyrants, number one. And number two, it wasn't the ordinary person that insisted on searching for that pure oil, like, the metaphor that you used. So I'm talking about the average person. And that brings me to that second question. If you can give us, please, a practical example of that. I know people go for therapy. Is that what you're talking about? Well, maybe not. Maybe it's something that one can do, a do-it-yourself type of thing.
There are times when you're going to need therapy. You're going to need someone to enlighten you. But the point is, number one, it can be done. And number two, it should be done. You shouldn't settle for damaged goods. Because, if you don't need to, why would you? Sometimes we get the impression that that's the only choice left. I'm just going to have to recognize that I'm not perfect, and of course we're not perfect in many ways. It doesn't mean we're not innocent. Children are not perfect, but they're innocent. So in the story, you're right. In the story, it took heroes, people of great insight and great moral quality, to overcome the shock of that invasion or of that intrusion. But once they did it, and once it became public knowledge, now it's not a secret anymore. Now you don't have to be a giant, a moral giant, in order to actually experience that. Now it's available to everyone. I guess which is true of all great things. Some very daring explorer discovered a new land, and now everybody can live there, and you don't have to be an explorer.
Got it. So you're saying once they've how would I say it? Once they've done the trailblazing, we can all follow in their footsteps, on each on his level. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So what other aspects are there of Hanukkah? Because I know
we have a Sunday night program for VIPs that you might be interested in. It's informal, it's questions and answers, it's conversation. It's really relaxed, it's really pleasant, enjoyable, informative, and kind of community-like. It's a Sunday night program. There's a Wednesday morning program for the VIPs, and there's a Wednesday night program. All of it just conversation, casual, laid back, unscripted. So join us, take a look, click the link below and see which of the three suits you best, and join us for some enjoyable conversation.